All right, there are some big stories going on in the news right now. We just have new documents out about cover up for Hillary Clinton, three major investigations that Obama's DOJ said shut it down, look the other way, do not move forward. More information coming out about Adam Schiff. To help me go through this and other big stories, I have Russ Tice. Russ, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure.
So just some background, Russ served our country in many capacities. He worked on special access programs for the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, and the NSA, the National Security Agency. Russ, is it true because of your top security clearance and the programs you were assigned to that you were forbidden from speaking to Congress and the Congressional Intelligence Committee?
That's correct. Both committees I was forbidden to talk to because they didn't have a high enough security clearance. If you believe that.
So you were higher security clearance than members of Congress on the Intelligence Committee.
According to NSA, I was, yes.
Okay. Do you think that was an excuse to keep you quiet, even though the letter you shared with me said you have your First Amendment rights and we love that you want to talk, but if you do, we'll basically try to ruin you?
Well, they were trying to ruin me anyhow. So it's, but yeah, I was, matter of fact, I had, I don't know, several talks with Congress at a lower level with staff. And in one of them with the HIPSI, I was like, the guy kept saying to me, if you go into anything beyond secret here, you'll be in violation and you could be arrested. While I'm at Capitol Hill, I'm like, all right, well, then why am I here? Why did you call me in here? Why am I even talking to you people? It's just craziness. But it just goes to tell you Congress is compromised.
Okay, that was one thing I wanted to ask you. Just as I've watched whistleblowers come forward, go through these big stories, it seems like intelligence controls Congress, not the other way around. Is that your feeling as well?
Well, I mean, part of the reason I got into this mix, I found out by accident that NSA was targeting a whole bunch of different folks and organizations. First for my satellite stuff, and then I started talking to some of the folks inside the agency, some of my friends, and they told me it's much worse because it's also all the fiber optics that run across our country. Most domestic stuff is done with fiber optics, by the way, some microwave. But then we come to find out that NSA was targeting Congress, the Supreme Court, the Vice Court, the press, NGOs like the Red Cross, a whole bunch of law firms, and hell, even Southern California was a bunch of unlisted numbers. I thought maybe those were like, maybe those were like starlets or something. I figured maybe if I called one, I'd get Jennifer Aniston online or something, but of course I didn't. But and this was back in 04-05 timeframe. We were finding all the, so it's and that's before NSA had the capability to do everybody all the time word for word. That happened much later, and all that's being stored right around the corner from where you're at in Utah. But they were targeting mainly Congress, and the military, generals, admirals, right about the 3-star level. And I was getting, and we were pulling out, my friends in particular were pulling out lists of phone numbers, sometimes attached to names. And these phone numbers are a lot of congressmen, especially on the intelligence committees, on the judiciary committees, and anybody at the top echelon in Congress, like the top 8. And NSA was tapping all of their phones, their little Congress enclaves back home where they were, their wives' phones, their husbands' phones, their children, adult children, their staffers, everything, word for word. And this was way back when. So I realized, even way back when, that if any of these congressmen had anything dirty, NSA had the dirt on them. So, and matter of fact, one name that I had, it was this wannabe senator from Illinois. I'd never heard of this guy before. And I talked to my guys. I'm like, who is this guy, Barack Obama? I'm like, who is this guy? This was the summer of 04. So think about that for a minute. If NSA and the intelligence community, who I believe runs the deep state, is the lifeblood of the deep state, if they had the dirt on all these people, they control them. So they own them. So then you think for a minute, why would they hate Donald Trump? Because they can't control him. He's lived his life in a glass house, and any discretions he's had, the world has known about, and mostly forgiven as far as the conservative world. And he's out there, basically you can't bribe him either. He's made his own $1 billion+ dollars. So he can't be bribed. He can't be blackmailed. So they can't control him, and they hate Donald Trump for that reason.
Yeah.
That's simple.
So I've had the opportunity to speak with a couple of Trump's personal lawyers, and they say that exact same thing. Like he is a wild horse. You cannot control him. They'll give him legal advice. He'll go do whatever he wants. So it's kind of he's such an interesting personality. Just so that my audience understands, when you say you had security clearance above the Intel Committee of Congress, what are these special access programs? I hear them in relation to UFOs and stuff, but I don't give a lot of time and attention to that. But so what is that level of clearance, and then what were the special access programs?
Well, I can't go into detail because then I really would be a traitor if I gave you some of the details of these programs. But these are programs that have special security arrangements. They don't go through the normal top secret SCI classification level. They have their own things called bigot lists, that there's only a certain amount of people that are allowed to know what's going on. And there's different varieties. There's acknowledged SAPs. Those are SAPs that are reported to Congress and the Intel committees and the defense committees, and to a certain select folks, the committees that deal with that, the subcommittees, I mean, and those folks all have the clearances to deal with SAPs at that level. Then there's unacknowledged SAPs, and those are the kind that only the top 8 in Congress are allowed to know. The chairmans on the Intel chairmans, the Speaker of the House, the top dog in the Senate, the top 8, and then the subs under the Senate and the House, and then the Intel in the House. I mean the House and Senate, Intel and Defense, depending on what the SAP is. So those are unacknowledged, where all the rest of the people in Congress have no idea what's going on with these things. Then there's ones called waived. Those are the ones that no one in Congress knows about them, except for if the top 8 ask about something specific, they can be told about a waived program, but they're very closely held. And then there's what we call ghost SAPs that no one knows about. And I had a handful of those too. No one in Congress knows about them. no one knows what's going on with those. And those are the super deep state held, or deep held, I should say, not deep state.
Is the President of the United States at the highest clearance and would know about these ghost or waived or SAPs, or is that person even held in the dark on purpose?
In a lot of cases, the president is not informed unless there's something really, really important going on that needs, and that wouldn't go into the daily brief either. That would be something that you'd whisper in the president's ear when no one else is around. But in a lot of cases, I think it's almost set up so that it's deniability. The president isn't told because he doesn't want to know, because he wants deniability. If he's something, in one case, a SAP went really bad, and it wasn't a ghost program, but basically we were shooting from the hip, and I was the one in after action reports that would say, hey, we gotta watch what we're doing. We could cause harm. These are the kind of things, Stephen, when the Intel program, you think I'm spying on you, whatever, and find out all your information. In my world, we can reach out and touch you and hurt you. So it's a whole lot more. The spying intel is just to get everything lined up to do the dirty work. And yeah, we can do damage and harm, and these things can reach out and touch. So, but anyhow, that one I was mentioning went to Rumsfeld. Rumsfeld blew his top, and then they called me in and they said, we need you, because I would write the reports, and I would write if there was any level of compromise, I would write different scenarios basically to explain our way out so that we wouldn't get caught. And we'd have scenario A, B, C, D, E, depending on the level of compromise. That's how in depth these things were planned. But the ghost saps those are the ones we not talk about, and no one else wants to talk about. The problem is that when NSA and the intelligence community started domestically spying on everybody, they used that SAP security type programs so that no one else, and the very few people in the intelligence services would even know about it. Even at NSA, these things were being done in the evenings about tapping into all these folks and using a database that was set up that had no audit trail, no audit capability in the finance world, no ability to audit who was going in and plugging information into the system to find out. So even after the fact, you couldn't find out. Now there were data lists of all the phone numbers that were tapped, and these things they look innocuous. It just looks like a whole bunch of numbers on data sheets. And someone would look at them and go, oh, well, I have no idea what this is. But if you know what you're looking at, that's actually those are the diamonds that are in there.
Wow. Okay, I want to jump into a couple of these stories, although I just want to say, as I've had spies, ex-CIA, former generals, former colonels, lieutenant colonels, I don't think the American people have a fraction of an idea of what's going on to keep the American empire running. It's really fascinating to me. And I don't even pretend to have scratched the surface on understanding all of it. Let me jump in on this story with you. So it came out yesterday that James Clapper, the former head of the DNI, he was working with James Comey and John Brennan, and they were basically doing a pressure campaign on former Navy Admiral Mike Rogers over at the NSA to go along with the Russia narrative. These emails have now been released as of a couple of days ago. But basically, it goes through and says, we all need to be on the same page. This is the narrative that we are pushing out to the American people. This is what we're going to start pushing down from the top through the CIA and different things. And this Admiral, Mike Rogers, is like, listen, I don't feel comfortable with this. Our intel is not picking up on the same stuff. I don't want to attach my name to this. All of my lower intelligence officers, they're finding conflicting information. And he says, I'm not going to go along with this. So then the CIA ends up going forward with this Russia story. What are your thoughts on all of this? What are your thoughts on NSA saying, we're not going along with the CIA story? Did you know a dangerous amount of microplastics are now being found in our water, food, bloodstream, even our brains? These tiny plastic particles, often invisible to the naked eye, carry toxic chemicals like BPA that disrupt hormones, damage DNA, and inflame our organs. They affect everything from metabolism to fertility, and have even been linked to cancer, neurological disorders, autoimmune disease, and developmental issues in children. The worst part, there's no way to avoid exposure. It's everywhere. But there is a way to fight back, and it starts in your gut. Your gut is your first line of defense. A healthy microbiome can bind to and break down microplastic toxins before they poison your cells. But if your own gut is compromised, those toxins sneak right through, wreaking havoc on your immune system, energy levels, digestion, skin, even your brain. That's why we're healing our guts through kimchi. Now, kimchi restores the gut flora in your gut. Because in a world full of plastic, your gut needs to be bulletproof. Today, you can get an exclusive offer by clicking on the link below, or you can use code Gardner to get 25% off your order. For an even better deal, call my friends at Brightcore right now to get up to 50% off your order and free shipping. This stuff is great. It's been awesome for my gut, my bowels, my digestion, bowel movements. It's been awesome. And why save 25% when you can save up to 50% and get free shipping? Again, give them a call at 888-908-4425.
Well, this whole thing started with me with Hayden, General Hayden, who is basically, as far as I'm concerned, he sold his soul to made a Faustian deal with the president at the time, which was Bush, W. Bush, to get another star on his shoulder. And ultimately, he was rewarded by turning NSA domestically on everybody in the country by ultimately getting another star and becoming the director of CIA after NSA. But then Alexander was nearly as bad, as far as I'm concerned, as Hayden was. But then with this was Rogers, right?
Yes, Mike Rogers.
I knew all those other ones, but by the time Roger came along, I did not know him personally or have ever dealt with him. So I didn't know anything about him. I'd never briefed him. Even though I worked with the Navy for naval intelligence for 3 years before I worked at DIA. But he was one that I didn't have a feel for. But apparently, he had a little bit of a conscience. So he's like, yeah, we, the SIGINT world is what we listen to, is what we hear. Now, it's normally pretty reliable unless they know what you're listening to and they're pumping out false information on purpose, which can happen, by the way. But I think he knew that this whole thing was a farce, and he was trying to say, I'm not going to play along. But I think it was even Rogers that may have approached President Trump impromptu to say, hey, there's some dirt going on here, Mr. President, and you yourself are the target of it.
Yeah, that what you mentioned earlier, you don't put this in the daily briefing, you whisper it into someone's ear. My understanding is without Obama and the CIA and the FBI knowing, NSA Mike Rogers went to President Trump privately and told him what was going on. That's just from what I've been reading over the last couple of days. So, but from an intelligence perspective, do you think that Hillary Clinton cooked this up and got Obama on board, or Obama cooked it up and got Hillary, or they just kind of came together and said, we'll use intelligence and the mainstream media that loves to feed this information to the American public, we'll weaponize these against America and we'll get Trump out?
Here's what I think happened. I think you remember when Obama was running for president, and I reported what I know to the world in the end of 2005. So NSA, of course, came out and said I was crazy. They said I was, wacko, lost my mind. You might want to think, why would they give a guy with the very top security clearances in this country to a wacko, right? So, and I passed all my psycho evals up until they decided to come after me in retaliation. But Obama was saying that he's going to stop the abuses in the intelligence community and all that sort of stuff. And then when he was a senator, that vote came up. And remember, by this time, I know that they've already spied on him. I think they had dirt on Obama, and he ultimately became their creature after they came to him and said, we have your dirt. You'll do you carrot and stick. We'll make you incredibly wealthy. You'll be a president. Everyone will bow down to you, or we'll destroy you, one or the other. And of course, he chose what I don't know what the dirt is they had on him, but I think they have dirt on him. And he said, I'll take the money, and do whatever you tell me, because I'm the boss. I remember it was like 2015 or something. Obama showed up at NSA impromptuly, and and it was kind of a hush-hush meeting. I knew about it because I had sources, even my very close, I guess I can say, my wife worked at NSA. She worked in admin or contracting, so she didn't do the spooky stuff. So my wife didn't even know he was coming. So I said, yeah, he's coming. And I think that he was summoned to NSA to be read the riot act, that you will do what we tell you or else. So I think Obama was compromised, and ultimately, let's face it, Hillary's probably got more dirt on her than the Wicked Witch of the West. I mean, she's got not a platoon of flying monkeys. She's got like 4 or 5 armies full of them. So it's not easy. Probably it's not too hard to find dirt on Hillary. And by 2012, NSA's listened to everything anyhow, especially overseas stuff with our. And so whatever happened in Benghazi, NSA knows about it. All those 30,000 emails that Hillary deleted and smashed and and wiped off, NSA has those. They have them. So you don't think that the intelligence community control people when they have that kind of dirt on them? Of course they can.
Okay. Wow. Just going back to Obama, you said, they likely had dirt on him. He took the money and the power and the fame, and his wife wanted nothing to do with it. I mean, she seems so bitter that he went down that road. Now, at least that's my perspective. So just based on everything you just shared, Russ, then does that make it that much more difficult for Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and President Trump to actually take down Obama and Hillary? Because if they already have this and haven't used it to hold them accountable, is Trump and those under him, they're probably not going to help them take down Hillary Clinton.
Well, I wonder how many, they're like Ratcliffe. He was part of the administration with and Trump, 1.1 and 1.2 and the first administration. How come he wasn't involved in trying to bring these things to light? Or Brunel, how come, we didn't know that either they were incompetent and they just didn't know what they were doing, and they certainly weren't spooks, so they didn't know what they were doing in the intel world, or they found things out or didn't want to know, or they knew and they wouldn't tell because they are compromised creatures of the deep state, which is controlled by the intelligence community. So I don't know about the Attorney General. I'm sort of wavering back and forth, wondering, where she stands. And and here's another thing. Let there be no question that once Trump got elected this past November, the intel community, they were shredding and burning and mulching material probably 24/7 since early November. But I still say there's got to be vestiges of things, and NSA likes to hold on to stuff because, and you're right there where they hold on to all the domestic stuff. There's 2 more databases, by the way, here in Maryland, where they hold the real juicy stuff. But the everything stuff is held in your neck of the woods, where they have little Sally talking to Joni about how cute Johnny is in junior high school, and who cares about that? But NSA still collects it.
All right, let me switch gears with you, Russ. Do you remember in 2023 when Officer Jack Texiera leaked intel on Discord to his video game buddies, evidence that Ukraine was losing the Russia-Ukraine war? Do you remember that story?
I seem to remember that, yeah.
Okay, so he ended up, Biden was furious because the intel showed that Ukraine was not in fact winning, that the weapons were not in fact arriving, that the money was being stolen. He ends up going to jail for 15 years for exposing the truth. I'm just wondering what you think might happen to Congressman Adam Schiff, who appears to have purposely leaked false intel in 2017 and 2018 to humiliate Donald Trump, his children, mislead the American people, and perform a soft coup takedown of a sitting president. If they would go after a guy for leaking intel on a video game chat site, why wouldn't they go after the guy that was in the intel committee giving false intel to the American people?
Well, because there's a difference between someone at the lower end of the ladder and someone at the top of the ladder. And ultimately, you got to realize, whether President Trump realizes it or not, the snakes are still out there. The deep state is still kicking. And I believe, he was very full. Matter of fact, when he first became president, I told my wife, I said, this man has no idea what he's up against. None. And he didn't. And the snakes went coiling right up his legs as they were smiling and, giving him compliments and basically kissing his rear end just before they put their fangs right into the meat of his rear end. So those snakes are still there, and those snakes will try to protect Shifty Schiff. So you got to see, if this doesn't happen, first of all, Miss Bondi is definitely compromised if things are stonewalled and don't proceed. And like I said, I'm on the fence with her. Tulsi Gabbard, I wasn't sure about her. I did think she certainly was qualified because she's never been in the intel field, but she's proven that she's loyal. But the intel community set her up when she went up to the Hill to say, there was no ability of the Iranians to produce or they were not spinning up the nuclear material for a nuclear weapon. I think the CIA was the one to set her. That's another reason why I do not trust Radcliffe at all. I think he basically tried to cut Tulsi Gabbard's throat. And then there's the whole CIA versus the DNI controversy, because it used to always be the CIA was basically the head of the intel community. They were the ones that puts together the presidential brief and the NIEs, the National Intelligence Estimates, which they call the community estimate. I forget what they call them now, but they got changed. But I think he doesn't like being second fiddle, and I think he's probably compromised. So, time will tell. But if we don't see anything happen, and the other thing is the Epstein thing. I'm quite sure that Epstein was hit. That was a hit job. You're going to find out that the guards and the warden, they're all living very comfortably right now. New houses, new boats, new this and that. But they know if they open their mouths, they'll be dead. So, yeah, there's no way Epstein happened. And and I'm a trained intelligence analyst. I looked at that. I'm like, there's no way. As a matter of fact, even a 5-year-old can figure that one out, that this happened. And then if you figure it out it happened, then you got to say who and how. Well, there's only one agency that could pull that off, and that's basically CIA, with FBI covering up any physical material that needs to be covered up, and NSA covering up any digital, like the shooter in Pennsylvania. All of a sudden they wiped down the roof with all the blood and they cremate his body. That's all the FBI getting rid of that evidence. Why? Because probably toxicology would prove that he was all drugged up because the CIA loves their drugs. He was probably all drugged up by the CIA to go after the president. I tried to warn President Trump 3 years ago that they would try to kill him. But anyhow, and the kid that did it, all of a sudden he has, a 20-year-old has no social profile, no electrons, no, Facebook, no Twitter, no, Instagram, and all the kids, all the kids are on these things. He has none. I find that there's only one agency, that can wipe out entirely someone's digital footprint, and that's NSA. So you've had basically the entire intelligence community that was involved in that first assassination attempt against President Trump.
Wow. Yep. To this day, we still have no idea. They wipe his house clean. Like you said, no social. They can't get into his phone. Like, you're telling me the U.S. government can't get into somebody's phone? Give me a break. And then they burn his body while they're having congressional hearings about him. They're secretly burning his body. Like that. None of that makes any sense. Okay. Just out late last night, it's come out that Obama and his Department of Justice, they basically, there were 3 major investigations against Hillary Clinton, and they were told to shut it down, stop investigating her, don't look into it, don't pay any attention to her selling uranium to Russia, her husband collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars in speaking fees from Russia. The Clinton Foundation, stop investigating that. Her emails, stop investigating. All of this is told to shut down. This is why I feel like we're not going to get Hillary Clinton, because the people that have it, they're not being helpful. It's like they want to cover her tracks for some reason.
Well, first of all, if NSA has all that information, and I was the president, I think he already fired the director, Hugh, who was there, and the deputy, right? I'm not sure. I think it's still a deputy that moved up. That he doesn't put in a permanent replacement for Hugh, right? But I would go in and say, look, first of all, shut down any domestic spying that's going on without probable cause, and then anything that's involved with things that might be crimes, like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and all the rest of it. You go back to the databases and then use what they did against themselves. Find what they did. Find those 30,000 emails. Find the conversations that Obama was having with Hillary and whoever else during the Benghazi snafu. And then we can hang them with that information, that they themselves were part and parcel to allowing to be sequestered and hidden from the world. I fear that President Trump may be thinking that, I can wrangle that snake and I can use it to my own advantage. If that's President Trump's attitude, he's being foolish, because that snake is a gorgon, and that snake will consume him. So I certainly hope President Trump isn't fool enough to think that way. But he needs to have the right people. Tulsi Gabbard should have had the right people, that when they set her up to say, oh, gee, there's the Iranians don't have any intent to create nuclear weapons. Oh my gosh. And then they persecuted her for that, because she was just too naive to know the difference. So she needs to make sure she has the right lieutenants that can whisper in her ear and say, hey, you're being set up, Madam Director, But I think President Trump still has to worry about those deep state snakes that are still down there, by his feet.
Yeah. Part of me wonders if, he'll go on Truth Social and he'll put out stuff about Hillary or Obama or Adam Schiff. And part of me wonders if it's almost like the Batman signal, like, come on, give me one of these people. I know that the intelligence is against me, but give me somebody that we can go after. But I don't know. I mean, I've been like, I was reading a little bit more into this situation with this, FBI timeline shows the Clinton corruption probes were all shut down. I mean, out of nowhere. Don't investigate the pay-to-play corruption with the Family Foundation. This deputy attorney general under Obama, Sally Yates, shut it down. No real reason why. Shut down the looking into anything that had to do with her emails. Throw up roadblocks. The Southern District and Eastern District of New York, out of nowhere, decides we're not going to support investigating the Clinton Foundation. These are the same district courts that went after Trump, but now won't release any information about Jeffrey Epstein, saying there's not a good enough reason for us to share that information. And then Democrats go on live TV and say Trump's not doing enough. He won't do that. But then you have Obama appointed judges blocking the release of information. I don't know. As I start to dig in, it just seems like he's got way more roadblocks than any of us understand.
And he's got potentially people that he can't trust still. Remember, one thing I found out way back when, in 04 and 05 timeframe, was that the NSA was going after judges too. So, they have dirt on judges. Most judges are former lawyers, and, I hate to disparage the trustworthiness of lawyers, but I think sometimes they earn the reputation they have. So they can blackmail. Think about the intelligence budget. When was the last time anyone in Congress challenged the intelligence budget? You know what happens? They say, we want this much money, and Congress says, okay, fine. Would you like some more? How much more would you like? That's pretty much how it's worked since 9/11. So since NSA started spying on all of Congress and all of everybody else, the courts, the judges, the military, the press, and everything. So, and the intel basically, if think about this, if I came forward in the 1950s and said, I believe that J. Edgar Hoover is blackmailing our presidents, for indiscretions, people would, what would people say to me if I were to say that in the 1950s?
Yeah, that you're crazy.
Right, which is what was exactly what NSA accused me of being once they realized I found out what they were doing, that I'm crazy. Because if you think about it, this is just huge. It's huge. It's far beyond what anyone has conceived. And no, it's, you just don't want to believe that this could happen in a democratic republic, or constitutional republic. So it's really bad. People still don't know how bad it is. I'm like a wolf in the wilderness crying out in the world, but that's just the way it is. And, maybe 30 years from now, 40 years from now, we'll come out with all the proof and they'll say, oh, gee, yeah, it really did happen, didn't it? So,
yeah. Wow. Okay. Final question. Off air, I told you that I live near the NSA data collection in Utah. I see the helicopters flying around it doing their security sweeps. You're saying that data center is collecting information on all of us?
Yes. Not only the metadata. The metadata is the number and when it's calling, who it's calling, and the telephone company set that up for basically billing purposes. But they started using that data, that the metadata is basically the card catalog for the data itself. It's like the book in the library. Now all those library books are now being held at Bluffdale, where you are, on every single word that's being said by every single American in this country, everything. And like I used an example of a little Sally talking to Joni about how cute Johnny is in junior high school. Who cares about that, right? No one. But it's still there.
Wow.
So excuse me. So that's how bad it is. And think about it. Back in the day, it was hard to find enough storage. NSA didn't have the power. They didn't have the storage. They didn't have the capacity to look through it all, sort through it all, the computer capacity. But then they, over the years, they started dealing with building all those capacities up, and that's why they built that facility there in Utah. That's the big time data storage for the everyday word for word everything we're saying. I just want one of these damn senators or congressmen when the DCI is in there and say, we want to know if NSA is collecting. It's the same thing they said to Clapper when in early 2013 when they said, is NSA collecting anything in any manner through either you or through surrogates in the communications corporate companies on citizens domestically without warrants. And Clapper he rubs his bald head. You can see the sweat starting to roll down. He's like, no, of course not. Of course he's lying. NSA has been lying for years, and yet Congress just nods their head. Oh, okay, that's fine. Whatever you say. And then after they lie in 2008, they revamped the FISA Act and they give everyone retroactive immunity. Oh, isn't that sweet? Retroactive immunity. And you're going to tell me that Congress isn't compromised? Come on.
Yeah, they gave retroactive immunity to Hunter Biden and Dr. Fauci. Still trying to make sense of that one. So, well, Russ, this has been a interesting conversation. I appreciate you coming on. If people want to follow you online, is there a way to do that, or do you like to stay off the system at this point?
I stay off everything. I try to. It's hard to pin me down. But
yeah, I had to be introduced through a couple of people to make this conversation happen. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I know your time is valuable. We'll have you on again in the future. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
okay, thank you very much, Stephen. It's been a pleasure.